I feel there's a common misconception thrown around among pro wrestling fans that if we follow the logic that pro wrestling is indeed a sport, then all of the industry's individual promotions are essentially the teams in a league, all competing amongst one another for the same prize. And so it's only natural for a fan of one promotion to want their team to win, to be the most popular, sign the best talent, to be the best, most dominant brand in the sport. But I don't see it that way at all. To me, pro wrestling shares more of a similarity to the music industry, with its promotions acting more like a record label, each with its own unique style and vision, signing talents that best reflect the sound they're looking to capture, and with an ideal audience and culture in mind in which to promote it. And when it comes to supporting independent wrestling, it shares a lot of parallels with following your local music scene. That magic of discovering fresh talent on the rise, performing in new and fascinating ways that stoke the imagination, the opportunity to witness their earliest triumphs in front of the smallest crowds they'd ever work, long before that becomes a near impossibility, being able to greet them after the show, buy the merch that they most likely produced themselves directly from the source, the opportunity to tell them what their craft means to you, and to share a brief connection made possible thanks to a shared love of this art form. There's also the bittersweet pride of seeing your favorites start to take flight and achieve their dreams, knowing that you may never see them play those same intimate clubs again, yet understanding it's what you've wanted for them all along, and for the rest of the world to catch up to what you already knew, and to be able to share in that joy with more people than you ever thought possible. Hey everyone, I'm the pro wrestling VTuber dedicated to love and justice, Kit Saberfang, and today I'll be telling you all about my cross-country trip to check out my favorite wrestling promotion in the world, Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling, as they embarked on a 3-day tour in the state of Texas. You may have spotted the promotional video I made for the event in my previous video. Not gonna lie, I've always kind of wanted to be an offer code, and not only did I end up making it to their 2 shows in Houston, but I also wound up with a real-life cowboy hat as well. Dreams really do come true, y'all. And I'm so glad I made the trip because by the end of the tour, it'd become clear that this would be a fairly significant weekend in the history of the promotion. As if selling out all 3 nights of their tour wasn't impressive enough, they did it while outdrawing other nearby promotions and putting up their all-time single-day attendance record at their finale in Dallas. And they did it all without having previously stepped foot in the state of Texas. It's truly wild how much of a success this trip was for TJPW, and so it's no surprise to already hear word that it may become an annual excursion for the group. Of course, this trip wouldn't have been possible for me were it not for all the incredible support that y'all have shown me for the past year, and we've got plenty to celebrate at the moment. The Beginner's Guide to TJPW continues to be my most watched video to date, and recently sailed past 10,000 views, making it my first across the 5-digit threshold. Even more incredible is seeing this very channel surpass the 1,000 subscriber mark, which is a pretty major milestone if you ask me. Thank you all so much for your continued grace, patience, and support as I continue to do my very best to crank out videos whenever possible. I'd also like to give a special shout out to those who've been joining me in the Saber Gang over on Twitch as well, where I've also recently started providing alternate English commentary for TJPW streams on Wrestle Universe that don't currently have any. I'll probably ask about that more in the future, but in the meantime, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that like and subscribe! It's truly the best and easiest way to show your support for all of my efforts, and as always, I do greatly appreciate it. Okay, now let's make our way over to California, where there's another trip across the country currently in progress. Wait, what do we mean California? I just told them we're going to Texas. It's in the title of the video and everything. Hello, guys? Why are we going to California? What do you mean just read the script, dude? I wrote the script! Read the script, dude. Kiss my ass. Okay, but for real, why are we going to California? Hello? Hello? Yeah, so Texas was never originally part of the plan. You see, back in April, I was supposed to be heading out to Vegas for Peach's annual appearance at the GCW Collective during WrestleMania weekend. But on account of, let's just call it world events, I decided that maybe a bustling weekend in Vegas wasn't the best use of my time. Instead, my partner and I refocused our travel efforts on a trip out to California to see friends, eat In-N-Out, partake in the local culture, visit Disneyland, California stuff. Also, yes, hello, hi, I will be appearing in 2D for the rest of this video as my computer also decided that it has given up on life as we know it, and so I am currently dealing with a bunch of technical issues. My apologies for the lack of heavy editing, as it also ate a lot of my work at some point. This cutie of a model though was made by Tensei, and I commissioned them again to add a sweet TJPW cowboy hat for the occasion. By God. And for a few months that was the plan anyways, until... Breaking news! Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling is returning to the US this July with an unprecedented 3-day tour in the Lone Star state of Texas. TJPW announced its 3-day Texas tour scheduled towards the end of that very trip to California. While I was determined to see Tej the next time they returned, I was also really looking forward to all that novelty cold brew and writing Monsters Inc. one last time. So I relented and initially had no plans to make it over to Texas. That was, however, until the tour organizers at Tokyo Story reached out and asked to have a call to discuss the event. And so I put on my best business boy Zoom background and joined them for a chat. Since putting out the Beginner's Guide to TJPW video, I've become a lot of people's first stop in understanding Tokyo Joshi Pro, and so I was more than happy to share my thoughts, guide them towards other more local creators and influencers who could help them along, and by the end of the conversation, I decided, maybe we should be in Texas for this after all. So we remapped the California trip into a Disneyland vacation. So long as I got to see Paint the Night one last time, I'd be happy, and figured we could at least make it to the first 2 nights in Houston before returning to the real world. I'm not gonna lie though, there was a part of me that wanted to then rent a car and road trip from Houston to Dallas for both the last show of the TJPW tour as well as AEW's All-In event, but it just wasn't feasible. And so, I must continue my 3-year-odd streak of traveling across the country during the biggest weekend of the year for one promotion, only to completely ignore them and just see TJPW instead. This is commonly referred to as being one of their strongest soldiers. There was one problem with this plan though. It turns out the Disneyland-adjacent Santa Ana Airport to Houston isn't a popular flight route, and so the earliest we could arrive for the first day of TJPW's tour was 5:30 p.m. local time, which was also when doors opened for night 1. So I packed my bags in such a way that I could go straight from the airport to the venue without missing too much of the show. I unfortunately did end up missing the first 3 matches, and the Up Girls, and their collab performance with the local Megami Maids group, and my first chance to be a Wakana guy. But let me show you the first moment I was able to capture. After making my way through the building, getting checked in, and finding a spot against the wall to post up, I took a knee to assemble my camera, and after taking a moment to adjust the settings, I peered through the viewfinder to see this. And it was in this moment I realized I'd made the right decision to be here. Daisy Monkey was taking on the team of Moka Miyamoto and Shino Suzuki, and the vibes, my friends, were immaculate. The first thing you'll notice about all the footage from TJPW's 2-night run in Houston is the unique situation of the venue. Post Houston gets its name from the fact that it's the former headquarters of the city's US Postal Service, and yeah, only the government could design something as brutalist as this, so that tracks. These days, it's more of a shared community and culture space, boasting a sky lawn, a museum, local businesses, and perhaps most importantly, one of the best food halls I'd experienced in years. Every type of food you could imagine: Mexican, sushi, dim sum, Pakistani, Latin, South African, ice cream, boba, a skate shop for some reason that I don't fully understand, but that's cool too. All locally sourced, high quality stuff. Listen, if you've been to as many wrestling shows as I have, you know the venue amenity situation be dire. Knowing that at any point we could get great food while still being within earshot of Palm Harajuku took a lot of stress out of a scenario like this where I didn't have a chance to eat before the show. It's also that experience in attending shows, and specifically Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling shows, that gave me the mental headroom to be able to step back from the experience at hand and observe the room more fully. The cavernous ceilings, paired with slick cement floors, made the sellout crowd of 415 paying fans sound more like 4,000, with everyone's claps and cheers bouncing and reverberating through the tunnel-like hallway. And with each move and subsequent shrill reaction from the fans, I couldn't help but notice more of Post's visitors following the sound in a daze of bewilderment. And gradually, as the show progressed, more of them could be heard cheering from the sidelines. This is one of TJPW's great strengths, its ability to immediately grab people's imaginations and helping create a space for them to see that there's more to pro wrestling than they may have initially thought, and that maybe it has a place for them as well. It's one of the reasons why I think so many of its roster members initially started out as wrestling fans because of their exposure to TJPW. This was also the first time I'd been to a TJPW show where the crowd felt fully locked in and intentional with how they showed their appreciation. You see, every previous TJPW show that I'd attended in the US was hosted alongside WrestleMania weekend. And while you do get the hardcore weirdos like myself who will intentionally make the trip out to see TJ, the majority of those tickets are going to people who are truly there for the bigger events, and so checking out TJPW is a curiosity more than anything else. Or, as has been the case in recent years with the GCW Collective, tickets to TJPW would be included as part of an all-weekend package deal. And so there'd be folks in attendance who may not even be aware that they have tickets to see a TJPW show that day, or what it even is to begin with. All this to say, past shows have drawn mixed crowds, and while they've always been won over by the end, I've also wanted to know what it's like to be at a TJ show where everyone else is more or less in on the lore, you know? And this was definitely that crowd. These Houston shows have been sold out for about a month, and that kind of early sellout is indicative of a more knowledgeable audience. The fans in Houston were clapping along to everyone's songs, shouting their favorites' names to encourage them, and by the time the main event rolled around, a rare 1v1 encounter between tag team partners Miyu Yamashita and Maki Ito, the crowd was simply electric. Let's talk about Maki here for just a moment. The loudest reactions of the weekend were reserved for the cutest in the world. And if that wasn't enough to convince anyone how over she is, she also had a meet and greet line bigger than most of the other talent combined to back it up. I'd mentioned in my beginner's guide video that one truly couldn't overstate the importance of Maki Ito to TJPW, and weekends like these are exactly what I'm talking about. People love Maki here in the West. And while some fans may criticize her Western excursions with GCW for supposedly being too one-dimensional, too cartoonish, or leaning too much into being a meme wrestler, which, first of all, how fucking dare you? Not only do I not agree with any of those sentiments, I also have to say that looking at the past few years of Ito's career, I genuinely appreciate all she's done to help expose new fans to Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling here in the US. Her and Yamashita both, actually. The time they've spent away from TJPW on these long trips overseas, touring the US as extensively as these two have, has only helped raise the profile of their home promotions, and these rabid sellouts and reactions in Texas are proof of that. In the past, Maki Ito may have been a lot of fans' gateway to TJPW with her wild, gifable punk rock antics. And Miyu Yamashita may have been a similar gateway for fans with clips of her iconic skull kick constantly going viral. But these days, they're the gateway because of the time they've spent on the road, building a relationship with Western audiences, and now they've got them coming back to see more. After the show, I made my way over to the meet and greet area, and despite my VIP wristband, was still woefully unprepared having shown up late. You see, after TJPW shows, there's typically a meet and greet where all the wrestlers get set up at a table with their merch and sign autographs, take photos, all that good stuff. Typical indie post-show happenings that you see all over the US and Japan. Where TJPW differs from most post-show meet and greets in the West, however, is their use of a pre-purchase system to acquire autographs and photos from the talent. For $30, you can choose a physical print of the available talent, which you then bring to their line and hand over for an autograph and even a cheeky little photo if you'd like. And if you brought something from home to have signed, that same $30 can also get you a generic ticket, which you then hand over to the talent along with a personal item. It's actually a very cool, well-done system, but only if you arrive early and make use of it. And I, did not. Once I'd gotten inside and recalled how the system worked, there was already an Ito-sized line at the print table. I was fortunately not caught checklist though, as I did have my recently collected BBM Joshi Pro Wrestling cards, a few of which I'd brought to be signed. I pulled out my prized casual dress Wakana Uehara and hopped in line to meet the dreaming star. Also, I think we got a casual coming up here. That's Wakana.
Wakana! And she's wearing a church dress! Oh my god! Wakana! I knew those eyes anywhere! I'm like, that's gotta be Wakana, brother! Dude, this is the photo I want them to find in my wallet when I'm dying in the water wars, okay? This is the kind of shit men would go to war and die for. Be like, I got a girl back home. I got this girl back home. I gotta make it back to Wakanda.
And she was incredibly sweet. Of course she was. We had a brief chat about what she planned to eat while she was here. Barbecue, of course. I also apologized for missing her match that day and assured her that I'd make up for it by being extra loud for her tomorrow. This I promised. I wished our mukbang champion all my best and stepped aside to put my freshly signed card away. This is also where my social battery dropped clear out my ass because I was exhausted by this point. Being up early to catch our flight, going straight from the plane to the venue, not having a seat and standing while shooting footage with a heavy camera, maintaining composure and not embarrassing myself in front of impossibly cute girls, always high on one's list of social anxieties regardless of circumstance, I'm sure. I was drained and ready to head back to the hotel. I'd also come to the show alone as my partner was too exhausted to make it to tonight's show, and while I'm used to attending shows by myself, it definitely requires a different sort of energy, and I didn't have the battery to spare. Not having dinner also probably didn't help, so I grabbed a delicious catfish sandwich, hopped in an Uber, and headed back to the hotel to crash out and try again tomorrow. So I wake up around 12 p.m. the next day, not even really sure if that's the real time, but to be honest, we've been going pretty hard, and knowing we didn't actually have anywhere to be the next morning for the first time in nearly a week, and also without any sad puppies who also have immediate needs, I think it may have been the first time in months I had been able to just sleep in. In spite of a temporary coma, I did have two things to look forward to with today's show. First is actually being able to arrive early enough to sort out that print situation, and second, we actually had seats this time. When it came to the prints, I opted for Maki and Misao to start, as I knew I'd wanted to meet Maki and have her sign the jacket I'd put together for the event. Misao is someone I'd met previously, but she'd already sold out of all her prints and merch, and so I knew I wanted to make up for that. I also had to make sure to pick up my TJPW cowboy hat before the show, something I absolutely could not resist. Your boy's gonna look so fresh rocking this in Kodokan Hall next year. After getting settled in, it was time to start the show with the Up Up girls who prepped a familiar tune. But then, when it came time to start, shoutouts to Miyu Watanabe, our fearless pink-clad idol leader, for taking charge and buying production some extra time. And shoutouts to Megami Maids as well. They're a Texas-based maid-themed idol group who partnered with the event and added some really fun atmosphere to the show. We always love a mass upper kick routine. The first match on deck this evening was also my chance to make up for something I couldn't do the previous night. Be a Wakana guy. As the dreaming star, Wakana Uehara took on Up Up girls Shino Suzuki.
Here are the official matchups for today's show. Single match, Wakana Uehara versus Shino Suzuki.
Has recently...
Wakana had a matchup yesterday against fans that are new to TJPW. We talked a little bit about this throw, that back elbow. That chin.
Getting to watch night 2 from start to finish gave me an appreciation for the cards TJPW put together for these shows. They really just gave us the most typical city circuit style, KFC hall ass shows possible. And quite honestly, as a hardcore Teach fan, you love to see it. You see, most of TJPW's previous shows in the US were scheduled alongside WrestleMania weekends, and there's an expectation for a lot of these visiting promotions to present supercard style affairs with lots of big and important singles matches, typically featuring a lot of outside talent. And while it makes for some great cards, it's also not really indicative of what makes TJPW stand apart from other promotions out there. It typically just feels like GCW featuring a bunch of TJPW wrestlers most of the time. Teach's first 2 nights in Houston felt very much like the hardcam-only city circuit shows, featuring a variety of fun tag matches, lower-stakes singles affairs, and fun gags that incorporate bits of the local culture. That might not sound super impressive, but as a fan, I think it's exactly what I've been wanting to see this entire time. The tour format also gave talent room to stretch their performances, with Pam Harajuku somehow coming up with unique gags and gimmicks for each day of the tour. That's my GOAT right there. It wasn't just the formatting that had this feeling like one of the most authentic TJPW shows in the US. Yeah, we got the Up girls, but we also got Sayori Namba hosting the show, fresh off her graduation event with the company, and continuing the tradition of Teach performers appearing more in the company after leaving than anywhere else. And we wouldn't want it any other way, because Namba's one of one, the GOAT. I know I just said Palm was the GOAT. I got a lot of GOATs, okay? What truly cemented this feeling, however, was seeing Hyper Misao charging around the ring in her Hyper Dream Cycle in all its neon green glory, a feat that I'd later find out was made possible by an event volunteer. More on that later. The Houston shows felt like organic build-ups towards the bigger card in Dallas, all while presenting the most authentic TJPW shows seen on US soil to date. Truly some of the most fun I've had watching a pair of pro wrestling shows. For the main event of night 2, we were treated to a Summer Sun Princess preview match featuring its singles champions taking on their challengers, with Mizuki and Suzume teaming up against Yuki Arai and Moka Miyamoto.
That's America's princess, that's a Yuki Arai.
And as I'm watching this match, all I can really think is, goddamn, I love TJPW. I love this roster. I could not imagine choosing anything else over this. Pro wrestling is the greatest. Following the show, it was time for the second round of meet and greets, and armed with my 2 prints ready to go, I added a third of Sayori Namba on the way in, since I had to meet the GOAT of GOATs. And armed with the knowledge of the previous night, I beelined it straight for Maki Ito's table to beat the rush. I'd mentioned in a previous video that while I've had a few opportunities to meet Maki in the past, I'd always opted not to out of fear I'd end up getting emotional and crying in front of her, and I'm not trying to do that. We're not trying to cry in front of wrestlers out here. Like many fans though, Maki was my introduction to TJPW back in 2018, and I really do credit her for saving my love of pro wrestling. If it weren't for Maki Ito, there probably wouldn't be a Kit Saberfang right now. As I got to the front, however, any fears of becoming a blubbering mess in front of my idol had vanished, as Maki was in high spirits and super animated in her enthusiasm. I told Maki a bit about my story, how she's the reason I got into TJPW, some of the highlights that I recall from those early days, and I thanked her for all the hard work that she puts into the promotion. She popped huge for the jacket I put together and carefully signed on the middle finger, though in all of the excitement, I actually forgot to get a picture of her, or of any of this, really, so my bad, y'all. I guess this is really just an excuse to go see Maki again the next time. Afterwards, I made my way over to Hyper Misao, who was posing alongside the Hyper Dream Cycle. Misao was also in high spirits, and I was impressed with just how much her English skills have improved since I last saw her in Philadelphia. Same for Shoko as well, who I had a brief chat with while Misao was signing my print. She had recognized me from her time in North Carolina, and we both expressed a need for her to visit DPW again sometime. My last official meet and greet of the night was with #1 ring announcer Sayori Namba, which was something I absolutely could not miss out on. When TJPW came to Philly last year, I was bummed that Nao Kakuta had to cancel during her retirement run, and with Namba having recently graduated from the promotion, there's no guarantee that she'll be on any of these shows moving forward. So it really felt like now or never to meet her. Namba's a sweetheart, of course, and through our discussion, I basically reiterated everything I said about her in this rant.
S tier with the bullet. She's the goat of this shit. The goat!
It was also during this time in the meet and greet area that I ended up having a few of my own. I was so happy to meet a few of y'all who watched my videos, some of whom spotted me from the Maki Ito jacket that I had been posting about before the show, and even some who recognized my voice, which is wild because I don't really think of myself as having a particularly distinct voice, but unique enough to be spotted, I suppose. I met Grim Recycler from our Discord who was actually volunteering for the event, which is very cool to see. I also met a couple that had learned about Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling from the advertisements for the show and wound up watching the beginner's guide video multiple times over as research. And for the record, if you do think you spot me at a show, feel free to come say hi. I do my best to maintain my VTuber world of illusion as much as possible for those who don't want the immersion breaks, but otherwise I typically have stickers on me for just such an occasion, and I'm always happy to meet folks. Come meet Buddy the Vape Dog at your local indie today. I also had the pleasure of getting to meet one of my favorite creators around, Meerkat Ultra. If you're on my channel, then you're most likely familiar with theirs, as they're one of the most prominent video creators covering Joshi Pro Wrestling on YouTube here in the West. And much like how they were inspired by the early videos of Neo Joe Shizzle when it comes to creating video essays about Japanese wrestling, it was their videos that in part inspired my own. Seeing Meerkat making fun and silly, yet informative and heartfelt videos about wrestling inspired me to take a chance and talk about wrestling in my own unique way as well. And it didn't end there, because a week later, they joined me over on Twitch, where we shared our videos and experiences from everything Tjin, Texas. TJPW managed to sell out 2 nights in Houston, Texas, and now it was time to see if they could do the same in Dallas. As for me, I'd be heading back home, where I'd be watching the show a few days later on demand. Thankfully, it wouldn't be long though until we heard how the rest of the trip turned out for TJPW.
Was there ever a consideration when y'all were planning it that you'd be overseeing the biggest single day attendance for TJPW?
I was like, I didn't even know what the record was, so I was like, oh wow, okay. So so no, not at all. I had no idea we were gonna kind of break that record.
That Sunday afternoon, July 20th, not only did Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling manage to sell out the 3rd straight day of its tour on walk-ups, but in doing so, achieved the highest single-day attendance in the promotion's history, with 2,540 fans packed into the OC Theater in Forney, Texas, besting its previous single-day record of 2,349 fans for Grand Princess 2-4 held in Tokyo, Japan last year. It also now holds a unique claim as the biggest single-day event for a Joshi promotion in the United States. This is an incredible achievement in more ways than one, and to help put this in perspective, TJPW sold more tickets for their one-day show in Dallas than they did their past 3 WrestleMania weekend shows combined. And that Dallas number becomes even more impressive when you compare it to all the promotions running shows in Texas that week as well. While not on the scale of a WrestleMania weekend, you did have House of Glory, GCW, and yes, AEW all running shows the week of All In, which ultimately drew 27,000 fans itself. TJPW's show in Dallas sold more tickets than every other show in Dallas that week, with the exception of All In, of course, and the Go Home Dynamite in Garland. And while it wasn't in Texas, I did also throw in NXT's Great American Bash because, I mean, come on, that's pretty funny. 2 weeks later, back in Japan, TJPW would host the second of its big 3 events of the year, Summer Sun Princess 2-5, drawing a crowd of 1,384 paying fans, which is surprising because you'd think they'd be able to draw more easily with their home crowds. So how did this happen? I'm no expert on the matter, but an aggressive local promotion plan, courtesy of the event organizers at Tokyo Story, probably had something to do with it.
So it was, to me, it was more like a proof of concept event, whether 100% undiluted Japanese Joshi Pro Wrestling can reach out to like general public. And I think it proved that. And most importantly, US viewers beyond traditional wrestling fans, I think. That part Nick and I are still analyzing, but our tentative, I wouldn't say conclusion, but a take is that we did successfully appeal to non-traditional wrestling fans this time.
Earlier, I talked about the authenticity of these Texas Tour shows and how the event production helped make it feel no different than what we're used to seeing overseas. Part of this was the tour structure and TJPW owning the show themselves, allowing them to tap into the cultural aspect of performing in Texas. When TJPW tours in Japan, they like to incorporate local customs, cuisines, marine life, you name it. And seeing the girls of TJPW fully embrace the Texas-sized nature of the event really helped endear them to the audience, especially those in the crowd newer to wrestling in general.
But one of the more fun aspects, I think, of the show was the cowboy hats.
Yeah.
Where did the cowboy hats come from? Whose idea was this? And did they sell out?
I happen to have a friend that just makes cowboy hats.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, well, if we're gonna have these girls come to Texas for the first time, what's more iconic than Texas than like cowboys, right? So I was like, let's just make them cowboy hats. I have a friend that literally does it, and we made a conservative amount of them, and yeah, they sold out. I think even if we made double, they probably would have still sold out. But yeah, we wanted to be very conservative because it's not something that people are gonna wear every day. But we thought that it was one thing I loved about it was that a lot of girls incorporated the cowboy hats into the show. That was their own choice. We just gave it to them as a gift. We didn't say like, please put this in here or anything like that. So I'm glad that they enjoyed the hats too, and they got to kind of showcase it.
One of my favorite parts of the weekend was just seeing all like the different jokes and gimmicks that Palm Harajuku could squeeze into each show. So I guess my big question there is, whose idea was it to give her a gachapon machine?
It's hers.
She wanted it?
Yeah. I kind of asked them to do something with gachapon. That was as detailed as I said.
So did you expect them to be like, great, we'll use the whole thing?
I mean, I have to admit, Palm Harajuku, like, this really impressed me. I see her as different character compared to she came to Texas before. And I was really impressed by the Baki's part too. Her action and the expression was amazing.
Likewise, on a similar note, seeing Hyper Misao bring out the Hypercycle, that was one of the most shocking, most surprising moments of the show.
Essentially what happened was, I remember Yo was talking about how we had to make the bike, and I know I was like not crafty at all, and I'm like, oh my god, we have to make this bike. And I looked up pictures of it, and it doesn't help that every bike is a little bit different based on, I guess like where they are and how she wants to make it. I'm over here as a very non-crafty person looking at all the pictures of the bikes, thinking to myself, I don't even know which one to base it off of. So we put it out there, and then one of the volunteers named Ben, he reached out and he said he was very interested in doing it, and we just kind of said, please help us so much. We really need your help. I can't do this. I think like literally the day before he sent us a picture of it. Yeah, I was like, this is great. Then he showed up with it. He showed us that they had like working lights and everything and all of that. And then he made the Texas Hyper South in front of it. So it was really cool, and it was really cool to have someone that truly loves the character be able to make something from his heart for her and have her use it. I thought that was really cool.
Seeing talent being able to fully express themselves and make the most of their unique environments also made me realize how some of these wilder, more eccentric elements of TJPW shows tend to be more toned down for the WrestleMania weekend shows. Even when riding with the Outlaws, there's still a sanding down of TJPW's edges to try and make it more appealing to its partner promotions audience. This weekend also showed me that there's nothing about TJPW you need to change for Western audiences to enjoy. They just need to know it exists in the first place, and partnering with an event organizer like Tokyo Story as opposed to a typical pro wrestling company meant they actually received real promotion that reached beyond the existing pro wrestling audience. For example, a month prior to the Texas tour, Tokyo Story had a booth promoting their TJPW events at the Tokyo X Convention, an indoor Japanese cultural festival conveniently located in Houston where 2 of its shows would be held. They not only reached more women and non-wrestling fans with this appearance, but they also discovered that a lot of people who don't consider themselves wrestling fans do recognize Maki Ito. And that sort of research came in clutch when the PR firm contracted by their Houston venue, Post, coordinated with Tokyo Story for an appearance on Great Day Houston, a local morning show. What was it like getting Maki Ito onto a morning show? Like, what were those conversations like?
That was through the PR team that is contracted out with Post, which is the location that we held the Houston show.
Oh, okay.
So they have a standing contract with that PR team to help promote any events that they have. So they connected them with us, and then they found KFGU a great day to kind of bring them out.
I hadn't guessed that the venue was helping out like that. That's really cool.
Post is basically considered like a cultural center. They do a ton of events there, so they have a PR team that helps them promote a lot of their events externally from what they can do from their own social media.
These are the sorts of things that their previous partners wouldn't even attempt. And like, let me just put it this way. Game Changer Wrestling is known for being cheapskates when it comes to paying its talent. Do you really think they're buying Mizuki a billboard? I don't think so. Also, for the record, it was revealed in an interview with the Japanese publication Battle News that, in fact, Tokyo Story's most successful marketing tactic was to give an influencer $300 to create a 7-second clip of Mizuki that directly resulted in $10,000 in ticket sales alone. First of all, if that's really all it takes to move tickets, for Tokyo Joshi Pro to simply have a chance to show people even a fraction of what they're capable of in that ring, then I think it really speaks to the desire out there for a different kind of pro wrestling. For fans to have that opportunity to open their eyes, see pro wrestling for the first time again, and realize that maybe it's not pro wrestling they don't like, but just one specific brand's vision for what pro wrestling should be. And secondly, make sure you thank Big Mizupion for the house on your way out tonight, brother. Thank you guys for helping bring TJPW to Texas.
Oh, no. Thank you for helping us. Thank you for helping us.
What did I do at the end of the day? Oh, wait. Here's a question for you.
You made a great video.
Oh, well, hey, did I sell any tickets?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Final question that everybody would want to know. Are you running it back?
Yeah, yes. Yes.
You're gonna try and bring them back?
100%, yeah.
When I got back from the trip to Texas, there was definitely something different. A certain switch had been flipped, and I think it was the realization that, yeah, I really do love this promotion. Why else would I be going through such extraordinary lengths to see it whenever possible? In all my years of watching pro wrestling, I'd never actually hopped on a plane specifically to go to a show until TJPW. And it's been a few years now where I've been making those trips, and that maybe I had more to offer, that maybe there was more work to be done when it comes to helping more fans in the West discover and take part in the joy of Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling. So I reached out to some friends in the community, formed a little group, and we launched a brand new subreddit dedicated to TJPW discussion with its goal to help more fans discover and learn more about TJ. I woke up at 4 a.m. to perform live pro wrestling commentary for the first time in my life, alongside night one of the Tokyo Princess Cup, which aired without a commentary track. I never really thought about doing it, but then I realized I came back from Texas with a reaffirmed love of this wild world of TJPW. And while I don't know exactly where I'm heading with it all, I just know that I'm happy to be here now with you all, experiencing what joy we can in an increasingly bleak world. And we all need that. Even if it takes running over Mahiro Kiryu with a bicycle, we'll do it. As many times as it needs to be done, in fact, we will run over Mahiro Kiryu with a bicycle as many times as it takes for the world to heal. And that, my friends, is something I think we can all get behind. As in, behind the handlebars of the bicycle that is running over Mahiro Kiryu. I think we all can find joy in that. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. You, my friend, are a real one. And thank you to Nick and Yo at Tokyo Store USA for taking care of me while in Texas and for sitting down for an interview. And thank all of you for your continued support. As soon as this video is published, I'll start the process of backing up my current PC for its great reinstall, and so with any luck, I'll be back in full 3D form in no time. And remember y'all, pro wrestling is for everyone, and pro wrestling can be anything.